Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I've been using lasers for a number of years, but only recently have I ever thought about adding a camera to one. I've always thought I haven't needed it. I use the pointers that are built into them or using the low power fire and do my framing that way. However, that's all going to change. Our friends at Comgrow sent me a package and in it is their new camera module. And this is meant for both their laser as well as options to throw them on others such as the Xtool D1. So we are going to get this thing put together. We are going to see what all the hype is about cameras with lasers. And if that interests you, stay tuned. We're going to jump right into it.
As we open up the box, we see that everything is well packaged and there is a pretty decent manual included as well. We got all the parts laid out to take assessment of what we had, and everything was looking in good order, so let's go ahead and start the build. So as we start the build, we're building the actual arm that goes up and over the laser first. So most of these pieces just kind of clamp together, and then you need to put this brace in that the screws will tighten down the clamps on the rails. And then followed up with that, we're going to mount the camera on. Again, that just kind of dovetails in and clamps around the bar as well. So now we need to put this on the frame. You do need to loosen up one leg if you're putting it on the Z1, and you'll need to slide in some of the T-nuts behind there. And then I'm just taking a ruler to try to make sure that this is centered as best I can before locking it down in place. Next, we add the arm clamp on back. You want to put that on loosely so that you can still slide the arm in once it's done. So just get those 4 screws started, slide that down, lock it in place, and then we can run the USB cable along the arm. They provide some Velcro straps to keep that cable out of the way. And with that, the build is complete.
All right, so we've got the camera all mounted on the laser, and it's fitting quite well, but as you can see, if we tried to put it in the standard medium-sized enclosure, it's a little too high for that. So we're going to need to actually assemble a new enclosure, and Comgrow has thought of that. So we're going to put together their large enclosure, get this in there, and see how it fits, and then see how it all works together.
So we start out by taking everything out of the box, taking stock of everything, making sure it's all there. And they do also include a 1 sheet of instructions to help guide you through this. But basically there are the plastic T-corners, and then there's 3 different types of pipes, and they're all labeled 1, 2, and 3. And so you just put the part A and B of 1 together, same thing with 2, and same thing with 3. And you want to build a base and make sure you snug up all those pipes into those T-corners on both the top and bottom, and then we assemble the uprights, put them in the 4 corners, and then we'll place the top on as well. And again, making sure everything's tight. So we grab the cover, and you kind of need to unfold it and find where the base is, and then this is kind of a whole enclosure, goes around the whole frame, so you gotta get it snugged in. And I actually found I had the wrong end, so I just needed to rotate it. Then it was fitting around the corners, tip it upright, get all the corners tucked in, and then zip it up. For the vent, we do have a 4-inch pipe, and so that goes on the outside, and then there's a backer plate on the inside that just slides through either the left or the right side back hole, and then there are some bolts and nuts to hold it all together. Finally, we added the mounting clips to the LED light bar, and then we were able to clamp it in on top in the front bar and turn it on to brighten up the space.
All right, well, we've got this thing assembled, and first off, it's huge. It's about 36 inches tall, 30 inches deep, about 28 inches wide. So plenty of room in there for your laser and plenty of height in there for a camera. Now, it does have optional ports. You saw me put the exhaust port on the left side here. It does have a matching port on the right side. Same thing with the cables. There are little flaps here with rubber kind of gaskets there that allow you to run cables through. There's a big patch here that you can remove. Gives you some nice side access as well. And then there's another one on top if needed. So this is kind of a mixture of a design for a 3D printer as well as now adapted to be able to use a laser. It's got this very nice reflective material on the inside, and they include the 1 LED light that clamps to a bar, and the nice thing is it really lights it up. I don't know that it shows on here that well, but there's a lot of light reflecting around. That's going to be very crucial and critical in making sure that you can see what's going on inside your laser while it's running. The front panel, of course, then comes down, and then you zip it up. So it should provide decent In closing, there will need to be some air inlet. So to do that, I mean, it's going to be able to pull in some. You could open these up a little bit. A lot of times what I end up doing is just kind of leaving this bottom flap a little open. That's going to encourage air to kind of suck in from here and then escape out the back. Now the window on here is just clear. It's not any protective material, so you're definitely going to want to be making sure you're using your glasses when looking in there while this is in operation. But the rest of it's reflective and opaque, so the only way you're going to see it is in through this front window, which is good. You're not going to have a lot of errant beams around, but it's going to limit your view a little bit. You might want to look at some of the cameras that you could put in there, a USB camera or a wireless camera, if you feel you need to monitor it more closely than the front window. But I'm going to go ahead and get this hooked up to my exhaust system. I'm going to get a laser in here. We're going to try it out. All right, so I've got things hooked up. The laser's in. Got the normal size honeycomb bed in here for now, but the larger one looks like it should fit no problem. I ended up running the air line for the air assist out the right side over here, just because I didn't have enough length with the air hose to run it all the way around. But I've got most of the other cables coming out this left side here. So we've got the USB, we've got the power, we've got the USB camera for the new camera rig, and then we also have the USB light up there. And so we've got plenty of room in here for this laser. We probably got a good 4 or 5 inches all around, maybe only 2 or 3 front to back, but plenty side to side to fit this, or probably most of your typical lasers of this 400 millimeter ish square size in here. So the next thing to do is, first off, we'll run it, just make sure it's going to extract smoke and that air is going to move through there. Then we're going to be able to get back to coordinating and aligning the camera, making sure that's working as well. So let's get going on that. Okay, we've got it running, and I did leave this bottom flap open just a little bit, and there's plenty of air moving in through there, so it should be moving the smoke out. Like I mentioned, this is a clear window. As you can see, it's flashing around in there, and so I'm definitely wearing my laser safety glasses as well. So we're gonna let this job finish up and run, and we'll see how it comes. Okay, not the best in grade, but I was just going for creating a little bit of smoke. And I didn't really, there was positive airflow going through it. It was pulling in through this bottom flap. I might try it, zipping it all the way up, see where the air comes in, but having it come in this way and go back towards the exit area there is best for airflow, kind of just help encourage it to move in the pattern you want it to. So now that we know that the enclosure is working, the exhaust is working, we're going to dive in and see if we can get this camera installed in Lightburn and calibrated. Right, now that we've got everything set up and installed, we need to configure Lightroom to work with the camera. So there are a few things we need to do first. First off, I want to prep things for the laser. And so you're going to want a piece of cardboard that covers as much of your working area as possible. You can do this with a smaller piece and scale things down, but it's going to be far more accurate if the larger the piece you get, the farther out you get those registration marks, the more accurate they're going to be. So I've cut out about a 16-inch square piece of cardboard. Cardboard works well because it gives you a good contrast and a decent burn without going through like white paper would, and it's readily available. We all get packages sent to us, so you should be able to cut out a piece to use for this. Now, the important thing is, once we start this process, we don't want to manually move anything. We don't want our material to move. We don't want the laser head or the gantry to move. So it's also good to get this focused first. So we're going to bring the laser into the middle of our work area, and we're going to double check that our focus is set right to the material so that we're getting a good burn. So we need to actually raise this up just a tad. So we're going to loosen that up, set it down on our focus tool, and snug up our gantry, and there we go. That is perfect. So now that we've got that, we can go ahead and home the laser so that knows where it's at, and then we want to make sure we don't touch anything to set it off of its homed coordinates. Now within Lightburn here, we need to do a couple things. You want to come over and make sure that the camera control is enabled. So you want to go down to your window menu up here, come down and make sure that camera control is checked. It may be checked by default. If not, just check that. that will open up a new tab and or window over here that we can move to. So here we have this screen. It's showing a preview already because I've set this up, but yours may start out saying none. If so, you want to come down and select USB camera. And here we are with the preview. So after this, we need to start the lens calibration and the alignment options. So you can get to that by right-clicking on this preview window and come down to calibrate camera lens. From here, what you want to do is you want to make sure we select USB camera, because integrated webcam would be showing the one on my laptop. Then we want, for this model that comes with Comgrow, it is standard lens, and we can actually go ahead and use the preset that's the 8MP-N-75. Those are presets for this lens. If you have a different camera, you probably need to go through the full calibration process and print out the dot file for it to calibrate the lens. But in this case, we can use the preset. So just make sure it's on standard lens and 8MP-N-75. Hit next, and that is the calibration wizard. Now what we need to do is actually align the camera to our work area. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and hit align camera. If you ever need to get back into here, you can actually come over here and right click and go to calibrate camera alignment, and then you're just going to select this on the side where it says cameras over work area in a fixed position. Now here again, we want to select our camera. Again, go to USB camera. You'll see the preview, confirm that's what you're looking for, hit next. Now this is going to bring up this window, and this is going to be how we set up our file to set our registration marks. Now the thing is, I'm using cardboard. It's going to absorb the laser material pretty well, and we can get a pretty crisp marking, but here are the settings I change. I actually slow this down to get a little deeper burn, and I bump up the power. So I'm going with 2075 on both of these for the line speed and the fill speed. What we're looking for is a real nice crisp contrast. And I've been going with 180 scale. Now if you're following the directions in the Comgrow's book, it's going to say 200 millimeters square, and you can use a sheet of regular copy paper. That would be if you had it at 100% scale, but we want to stretch this out. We want to get as much area covered because that's going to be more accurate calibration. Now before we go ahead and burn this, we just want to make sure that we frame it to ensure that our material is fully within the area that it's going to mark. So we're just along the bottom edge here, so we might just scoot this cardboard down, but we want to make sure left to right and top to bottom it's going to be covered. So it's looking good there. Like I said, I'm just going to bump this down just a little bit to give us some extra, because I know I'll have plenty of overhead up top. Yep, there we go. Just want to make sure that side to side as well, it's going to be covered. Now this is going to put the 4 registration marks along the sides. I'll slide that over just a touch. And then it'll also put a dot in the center of the work area. So once we're happy with that, go ahead and turn up our exhaust fan a little bit just to clear any of the smoke, and we're going to hit start. Now this will go ahead and burn the registration marks in. We'll let that go, and then we will come back and continue with the alignment calibration. Okay, now that that has finished, we can go ahead and hit next. And we're going to see the preview down here. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the head is out of the way of all the markers. So we'll just bump that up just a little bit more. We can see all 4 of them. What we want to do is capture the image. And we're really trying to make sure that we can see each one of them clearly. They look pretty good. And if we're happy with that, we can go ahead and hit next. Alright, so now we need to click on the image and tell the software where we're seeing these intersections. So you want to get your cursor as close to the center of that X as possible. Double click, and if it looks good, we can move to the next one. If you feel like you need to move it, you can just click close to the existing one, move it over, but I think the first one was better. We can always come back at the end and tweak this again. So right there is where we're going to start out. Go ahead and zoom back out, and then we'll zoom in on this one. And again, you want to hit kind of the center. Zoom back out, zoom in, Just keep working your way around 1, 2, 3, and 4. Move that one down just a little bit. There. And come on. Sometimes the zoom on this thing is very strange. If you get into this scenario, just hit back, capture image again, hit next. It takes off where you left off, and then zoom in on this last one. And double click right about in the center. Now here you'll see they drew a box around them all. Once again, we've got the weird zooming issue. Once you're happy with the placement of each one of them, you can go ahead and hit next, and it'll say finish. Alright, so now that has done the initial calibration of the lens and the camera, and you'll see up here we still have a preview. It is rotated 90 degrees, which is a little troublesome, but that's because of the physical mounting of the camera. I think there might be an option to change that, but what's important here is we come in and update overlay, and the image here is correct. So you see 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the next thing we want to do is double check our how it's working. And the way I like to do that is what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a box anywhere here in the open area. So I like to make it a square box, about 26 millimeters. It's about an inch square. And when I come back over to our cut layers, we're just going to change this to a line to make this go faster. So we've got our speed set at 2075, and we'll go ahead and frame this. So it looks about right. If you want, you can actually double check by hitting home, make sure that the laser is fully aware where it is supposed to be. Once again, framing it out. And then once we're happy with that, we're going to go ahead and burn that into and then what we do is we come down here, zoom in, come back to our camera control, and hit update overlay. Now it's going to show you the box it engraved versus where our line is. Now what I'm seeing here is that it looks like it's the where we put it versus where we cut it is off by a bit, side to side, and maybe just, it's hard to say top bottom. Now to tweak that, what we can do is we can use the XY shift here. So we can use the Y shift, move it up and down. We can use the X shift to move it left and right. So what you would do is you would want to try to come in here, make your adjustments. So 0.1 looks too much, so try 0.7 to get the balance, maybe 0.8. What we're looking for is trying to get in the middle of each one. And then same thing top to bottom, maybe we need to go, thinking 0.3. Might get it in the middle. And once you've done adjusting that, you want to make sure you hit save settings. And that will save that offset. So now what I like to do is just move this to a new location and then just run it again. I'm gonna have a laser burn that. Get it out of the way. Hit update overlay. Now we can come back in and say, okay, it's closer, but we still need to shift it to the left just a little bit. So I'm gonna say maybe total of 1. Once you're happy with that, hit save settings again. Again, move your box, and you can do this a few times just to kind of keep tweaking and dialing in your settings until you feel you've got it working really well. And there, I'm pretty happy with that. So you see that the line is fairly centered all around. And you know, you're always going to have just a slight variance, but this will get it dialed in as close as you can so that you can truly be able to then burn on an object that you place in there. So once you're happy with this, like I say, make sure you've saved your settings and you should be good to go with calibration. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and throw a circle down there. And let's go ahead and update our overlay. There it is. So let's go ahead and draw a circle in here. About like that, and then let's try to center it as best we can. If you're moving it around and you need more fine control, hitting the control button, holding it down while doing that will give you a finer movement detail. There we go. Let's see how the laser looks by a quick frame. Looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and burn that. All right, there you go. Fairly centered on an object.
And we're all going to tie it all together here by creating a quick Christmas ornament out of a cookie cut from a tree branch that fell in a neighbor's yard. We're going to go ahead and just set this to fill, get our settings all ready to go, test it, and send it to the laser.
And there we have it. We were able to engrave that nice little Christmas engraving on this cookie cutout. So I hope this gave you an idea of how the camera module can work and how to get it set up and configured. Using that X and Y shift to really dial in your settings will help you really get this spot on. So if you have any questions or comments about the camera module or the enclosure, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I try to get back to those as quickly as possible. I'll also have links to where you can check out more about this or even purchase this. Some of them will be affiliate links, which they do give a kickback to this channel, but as always, no pressure. That's going to wrap it up for this video. We will have some more projects in the future, so if you'd like to catch those, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you will see what happens in our workshop next time. And in the meantime, I hope you can get out into your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.